Hi, and welcome to Module 4. In this module, we're going to be talking about how to create a vision for your future. So many of you have heard about my theory of flow, and you've watched my famous speech that I gave in Calgary in 2009, where I talked about living in the ultimate state of human existence and how to get in this state of flow, you need two ingredients. You need a vision for the future, and you also need happiness in now. And depending on where you are with these two particular ingredients, you could be in any one of these buckets. You could be in a negative spiral where, watch my hands, you have no vision for your future and no happiness in the now. Or you could be in the current reality trap. You're happy in the now, but you don't really have a vision for where you want to be in the future. That's dangerous too, because without having a vision for your future, you don't have a means to contribute to the planet or grow. And Tony Robbins, of course, in his famous TED Talk said that what all our souls crave is growth and contribution. Now, you could also be like many entrepreneurs in stress and anxiety. You have a vision for the future. You know the next office, the next building, the next revenue target you want to hit. But you are not happy now. You're stressed out, facing anxiety. You're waiting for your goals to come to you before you experience happiness. Not ideal either. And finally, you can be in the state of flow where you're happy in the now and you have a vision for the future. So of course, you could be in any one of these four areas. Now, you've learned this from my free talk. And in our last module, what we did was we showed you how to create happiness in the now through the art of discipline. What we're going to teach you in this module is how to create really incredible visions for your future, way beyond what most people think about and see when they think about goal planning or creating a personal vision. I've had the pleasure of hanging out with many remarkable men on the planet, like Sir Richard Branson. That's me and him on his private island, Necker Island. This was taken in 2012 at a toga party. If you're Richard Branson, pretty much every day of your life is a party. And I've always admired how men like Richard think. I got to spend quality time with Richard, ask him a couple of questions. And from his answers, I could tell that this is a man who genuinely lives in flow. So I asked him, you run so many different companies. How do you stay productive? And one of the things he says is, I make a lot of lists. And I'm going to show you in a moment what one of his lists look like. But the other thing I remember asking him is, what do you do when you're sad? You always seem happy. And he said, I can't remember the bad times. I only remember the good things that happen in my life. And his life is indeed good. So that's one of Richard's list. We know, for example, that someone like Branson doesn't really pay much attention to the sad moments. He only focuses on the happiness. But does he have a vision for the future? Well, check out his list. This is a list that was in one of his books that was released in about 2011. He starts every morning with a list like that. Pictures from Zambia, show mom, ring Steve Fossey, the famous aviator, letter to airline staff. Now, his list doesn't say things such as pick up milk on the way home from the grocery store. It's all big, epic things. Here's a man who's having so much fun right now, but is constantly thinking of new ways to leave an impact on the world. That is flow. And the world's greatest people stay in flow. Now, you can watch my full speech online. Just Google Vishen Lakhiani Flow. But what we're going to talk about here is we're going to take the concept of visions for the future and expand it so that you learn new models of goal setting, of personal vision creation that are beyond anything you may have learned elsewhere. First thing we're going to talk about is how to not get stuck in society's rules. Then we're going to talk about the importance of choosing a mission over a career. Then we're going to talk about creating balance in your life so you're not just a one-dimensional person who has a great career but might be in bad health or might have ruined your relationship with your kids. Then we're going to talk about how to reframe failure, because no matter how big your vision is, there will be times when failure will happen, when things won't go right. What do you do in these moments? And finally, we're going to teach you techniques to help you be unrealistic in your goals. So in our last session, you learned discipline. This session, you are going to learn how to create a vision for the future. When you combine both of these together, you're going to learn how to get into a state of flow way beyond what you may have already known from the little glimpse you got from my public speech. And another thing we're going to do, we're going to eradicate traditional goal-setting mechanisms such as SMART, S-M-A-R-T. It's a goal-setting mechanism I absolutely think is horrible and actually holds so many people back. So as we go on, you will see why I discourage SMART goal setting and why I'm going to show you a whole new method which I've used for myself and I feel will help you take bigger steps towards creating an extraordinary life. So let's get started with part one. Part one is about seeking the path less traveled. See that home? When I was 21 years old, I found myself in that home. It was for a barbecue. And if you don't recognize that yet, that is an aerial view of this house. This is Bill Gates' house. So there I was in the garden of Bill Gates' house in 1998. I was a new hire at Microsoft. I was an intern. I'd gone through an incredible amount of interviews to get that job, almost 5 interviews. 1% of the top computer science graduates in America got to actually make that job. And here I was at Bill Gates' home. Bill was just behind me. He had other staff serving burgers and barbecue ribs to all the new interns who were there. And Bill, the richest man in the world at that time, was just standing there greeting us, chatting with us. We got a tour of the home. It was so welcoming, but I felt very uneasy that day. I realized I hated my job. I'd been working for Microsoft for about 6 or 7 weeks then, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do. I had spent so much money to get into one of the world's top 5 engineering universities. I'd gone into massive debt. I had studied my butt off, even though I really didn't feel this was my passion. I had studied subjects such as math and physics, which were necessary for this job, but wasn't what interested me. I was interested in other things. And now I finally had the dream job, 1%. And I decided I didn't want it anymore. And at that point, I decided to quit. I got myself fired from Microsoft. I was too chicken to actually turn in a resignation letter. So I just goofed off, got caught by the manager playing a Microsoft computer game, Age of Empires, in the office during working hours, and I got dismissed after 11 weeks. But here's what happened next, right? I had done everything right. My teachers, my parents, my society would have been so proud of me. Here I was, a kid who grew up in Malaysia, in Bill Gates' home. Not anyone gets that chance, but I quit. I decided that it wasn't for me. I was following someone else's rules, not what I really wanted. I quit, I moved to New York City, and I joined something I did have a passion for. I joined a non-profit that was working on world peace. In New York at that time, in 2003, if you earned below 30 grand, it was considered living below the poverty line. I lived in Manhattan. I was earning 25 grand a year. I was living below the poverty line. Crummy apartment, sharing it with another guy. It was a studio. It was just awkward. And but the thing is, I was happy. I was so much happier than working for Microsoft on my cushy salary in that beautiful office in Redmond, Washington. But taking that job at that nonprofit led to so many other amazing things. And sometimes it's kind of funny where life leads you. I got a chance to travel to Norway on a business trip. There I met my wife, Christina. We fell in love. That's an intimate photo of us meeting after a couple of weeks. And we've been together for 15 years, 2 kids. We got married in 2003. 2007, our son was born. See, if I hadn't made that leap, if I hadn't followed my heart and left Microsoft and joined this nonprofit, even though logically it didn't make sense, I gave up one of the highest paying jobs I could possibly have as a computer engineer. I worked for a nonprofit where I didn't use any of the skills I learned at university. I got a miserable salary, but Hayden wouldn't exist if it wasn't for that. Now, it didn't stop there. Through some of the connections I met working for that nonprofit, we ended up starting a company, which is Mindvalley. I ended up starting it with a friend whom I met through the same volunteer work, Mike. So that step, following the path less traveled, led to Mindvalley. It led to Christina, who's sitting there in the picture next to me. It led to my son, Hayden. It led indirectly to all the courses, this entire business, this program that you're listening to today, all because I walked away from the ideal life and took a leap. I followed my heart. The question then is, why are so many of us so afraid to do that? Why are we so afraid to follow what we feel we need to do, but instead we blindly follow the rules that society has set forth for us? These rules, of course, if you've been following my work, are what we call rules or bullshit rules. Why is it that we hesitate? Well, perhaps here's a reason why. If you think about the life you've been trained to lead, we are told that you need to follow a certain sequence to become successful. And that sequence involves, from the time you're a kid, studying hard, going to school, getting good grades so you can someday make it to college, working hard, going into college debt, getting good grades so you can get a certificate, so you can apply, get a job, show up from 9 to 5, work, 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 so that you can go home, play, watch television, enjoy life while you save and save and save so someday you can retire and finally do all those things you want to do. Now, if you think about it, that seems insane, and most of us know that now, but that is how we traditionally have trained people to think about their career. But that's not the way truly extraordinary people think, and this program is about making people truly extraordinary. Pay attention to this bearded hippie.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. That's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
That, of course, was Steve Jobs, probably one of the greatest innovators and extraordinary lives who ever lived. A man who has changed every aspect of our world today, from Pixar to Apple to being the largest shareholder of Disney. A truly extraordinary man. But pay attention to what he said. You can change it. You can influence it. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again. Steve Jobs, however, if you look at his life, he was a guy who just forego the rules. He dropped out of college. He traveled to India against many people's advice, spent months in India, living in poverty, sleeping in ditches if you read his biography, because that's what he felt like doing. And thank God he did, because it led to Apple and Pixar and so many other amazing inventions which have made the world such a more beautiful place. Rules. A lot of the stuff we've been trained to do are nothing more than rules. Bullshit rules. Bullshit rules that we've taken on generation to generation to simplify our understanding of the world. Rules come from us through our culture, our nations, through religion. Religion is one of the biggest buckets of rules out there right now, and it's trained us to not question it. But rules also come from your career. Consider the fact that in a recent poll, over 50% of Americans dislike their jobs. Now, think about how crazy that is. We spend 70% of our waking hours at work. And in America, arguably the world's wealthiest, richest nation, 50% of people dislike their jobs. Imagine what that number is like in China or India or Indonesia. 50% of Americans dislike their jobs, and that seems crazy to me. How did we get there as a human species? Well, Paul Marston, the scientist, in his study, Memetics and Social Contagion, says the evidence shows that we inherit and transmit behaviors, emotions, beliefs, and religions, not through rational choice, but contagion. And by the way, the current global career path, from defining college to 9 to 5 to jobs, is a religion. It's the religion that we've been programmed to believe makes us successful. Marston says, when we are unsure of how to react to stimulus or situation, these theories suggest we actively look to others for guidance and consciously imitate them. What I'm saying is, the reason many of you went to college is because you were imitating others. The reason many of you got a 9 to 5 job is because you were imitating others. So what does life look like when we stop imitating? Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, a lot of other extraordinary souls did not follow the path of imitation. They carved their own path. It's risky, it's dangerous, but I can guarantee you that when you learn to do this, life becomes so much more. So what rules do you buy into? Well, here's a classic example of how rules can ruin so many people's happiness. Why are lawyers depressed? I used to work in the legal industry, and one of the things that baffled me was the statistics that showed that 50% of lawyers were clinically depressed, especially true for women lawyers. Yet, Every year in America, more and more and more people become lawyers. America has 5% of the world's population, 70% of the world's lawyers. Why are people becoming lawyers? Well, the answer is obvious. Studies show that lawyers have some of the highest postgraduate salary. So if you graduate and you become a lawyer, you get a higher salary than a computer engineer or a doctor, right? So that attracts people into lawyers, into being a lawyer. But it's a depressing career, and it's not just in America. In Australia, check out this piece of news. The alarming rate of depression amongst lawyers is now being publicly talked about and addressed in social programs. In Australia, 1 in 3 lawyers are clinically depressed. In America, among women lawyers, it's 50%. Among male lawyers, it's also about 1 in 3. So it's a sad state. I have so many friends who studied law, one of them from Harvard, another from Cambridge. They quit law because they realized they took the wrong path. Law is just one of the many rules that we've created. Be a lawyer, be a doctor. But in reality, these are often things that we are blindly doing because our friends did it, or our parents advised it, or we watched one too many episodes of Ally McBeal. There are other ways to create a meaningful life, and we're going to be talking about that. But let's go back to rules. Rules exist in our living life, in our personal life, in our career. Common rules in personal lives. Every woman needs a man. Aging is a part of life. Religion needed for salvation. Males and females need different roles. Love is painful. Work and play should be separated. But we also have massive rules on work. The pursuit of money is wrong. Success requires hard work. 9 to 5 is necessary. Be realistic in your goals. We need college degrees. A corporate job means success. One by one, many of these rules are being dashed. We know that, yes, there is a big disparity between the rich and poor, but pursuing money is a great thing because money magnifies who you can be. I know that many of the most successful people in the world, like Branson, do not work hard. Their work has become play. Working 9 to 5, we abolished this in Mindvalley a long time ago. It's flexi time, and it's led to so much greater productivity boosts. Be realistic in your goals. We're going to demolish that rule in a bit. We need college degrees. In companies like Google, Laszlo Block, the head of hiring for Google, has said that 15% of the people working for Google no longer have a college degree. They stopped looking at college degrees. Likewise, here in Mindvalley, 15% of our staff, no college degrees. A corporate job means success. Well, we're going to look at this, and I'm going to show you why a corporate job can be a path to mediocrity. Doesn't mean it's not going to make you happy. Some of you might be happy with your corporate jobs, but I'm going to show you an alternate way of looking at it that might help you expand what you're capable of. The point is, outside the rules of physics and the rules of law, all other rules are illusions that we have chosen to believe. And it's our job to smash the ones that no longer serve you. We're going to start with one of the biggest rules of all in terms of how it impacts us, the career rule, for the simple reason that 70% of our waking hours are spent on our job. Yet, many people wake up one day at the age of 40 wondering what happened to their lives because they were forced to pick a career, like me, before they could legally buy a beer. Being a 19-year-old kid in Ann Arbor, Michigan, I had to choose my career, computer engineering, before I was even entrusted to walk into a bar and order a Budweiser. It makes no sense. And years later, I realized how I'd got myself into a rut, and I had to quit Microsoft. So, a word of warning before you follow this path. People you care about, people who love you, are going to tell you that you're crazy. They're going to talk you out of it. They're going to make you feel guilty. Do it anyway. The human heart, they say, is the most selfish organ in the human body. Why? Because it takes all the good blood for itself and then it redistributes the rest of the blood to all the other organs. So, I guess you could say the heart is a selfish organ. But think about what would happen if the heart did not do this. The heart would die. And if the heart died, it would take down every other organ with it. And so the heart has to be selfish. And in your case, do good for the world. Love the people around you. But when it comes to doing what makes you happy, you have to be selfish. And so you may have to disagree and go against the wisdom, the advice, the older folks who tell you how to live your life, who you should marry, what career you should take. But if it doesn't gel with your heart, be selfish, and follow your heart. The first step to doing so is to completely change our paradigm of career. So, what I'm going to share now is radical, but it's what I sincerely believe, and it's what I would advise all young people today and older folks who are looking to maybe make a change in their life. And that is, do not chase a career. Instead, chase a mission. Get a mission, not a career. The most exciting people in the world do not have a career. What they have is a mission. And one of my friends, Alex Eccles, who's a writer from Chicago, said this: do not chase the money, chase the mission. When you chase the mission, the money will chase you. I love that quote because I've consistently found that people who make a great deal of money and are happy and wake up every day loving going to work are doing it because they do not have a work. They do not have a regular job. They wake up every day doing something that to them is a mission, and they get rewarded handsomely for that, not just in terms of money, but in terms of meaning, in terms of being happier, in terms of being able to jump out of bed every morning excited to start your day. Now, how do you begin? Well, I'm going to teach you a technique invented by a man called Martin Rutt. Martin Rutt, I met him recently at a mastermind, amazing guy, business consultant, and he says that there's a simple question we can all ask ourselves to change our world and ourselves, and it is, what is your vision of paradise on earth? Martin actually uses the word heaven. I'm avoiding the word heaven because it may have a religious connotation, but what to you is paradise on earth? Is it global education for all? Is it kids growing up in a new type of schooling system that helps them live conscious lives? Is it living in cities that are covered with beautiful greenery and trees? Is it electric cars everywhere? So a few days ago, I was in New Delhi, India, driving to the airport and sharing a cab with a senior person from the United Nations. And he had ran a project in the United Nations called My World 2015. Basically, for the UN, he polled 7.985 million people to see what did people really care about in the world today. This poll is a beautiful roadmap for finding your mission, because odds are it's somewhere here. Most people said they care about a good education. They want the world to have better education. Education led the pack, followed by better healthcare, better job opportunities, an honest and responsive government, affordable and nutritious food, protection against crime and violence, access to clean water and sanitation. You can go through this list, but this list gives you an idea of all the amazing things in the world that you could make your mission. It doesn't have to be from this list, it could be something completely different. But think about this list as your roadmap for creating change. I believe that kids, when they're graduating college, shouldn't be asked to think about their career. They should be asked, which of these areas of humanity are you going to make your mission so that you can help humanity fix? Is it better education for all? Is it healthcare that's more affordable? Is it clean water for the world's people? This is the difference between choosing a mission and choosing a career. Missions give you meaning. Missions help you better the earth. If you simply go down the career path, there's that good chance that you end up being one of those people who wake up at 40 wondering what you're doing with your life. Now, how do you get started? Well, let me share two stories. One comes from the world's #1 entrepreneur, Elon Musk. Elon Musk, of course, is arguably, and many people would swear, the #1 living entrepreneur in the world today, the man who took Steve Jobs' crown. I got to meet Elon Musk at this particular mastermind, and that's a group of us from the X Prize Foundation, which Elon is also a part of. It's a group of philanthropists and technologists and inventors who gather once or twice a year in Silicon Valley to see how we can use our money and our technology and our clout to solve world problems. So we got to visit SpaceX, where Elon welcomed us, and I got to ask Elon a question. How did you get started? What makes you Elon Musk? Now, what Elon said is that when he graduated school, he wanted to get a regular job and he wanted to join an internet company. So he went to the #1 internet company of that time, which was Netscape. He showed up to the Netscape office with his resume in hand. He was a young 20-year-old. Being an engineer, he wasn't the most vocal person, so he sat in the reception office holding his resume, waiting for someone to call him to interview. And he waited, and he waited, and he waited, and no one called upon Elon. So finally he just said, fuck it, I'll just start my own company. And he did. He ended up starting PayPal. sold it for about 200 million, used that money to start SpaceX, which has replaced the space shuttle. The space shuttle has now been decommissioned by NASA. Elon Musk sends NASA's payloads to space. Today, countries that can launch rocket ships to space are China, America, the European Union, India, Israel, Japan, and Elon Musk. But not to rest, he then started Tesla Motors, which is making the world greener by popularizing the electric car, the first totally legit electric car with incredible demand. Elon is changing the world. He's doing it because of his drive to better the world. Now, I asked him, what drives you? And he said, I want to make man an interplanetary species. Now think about it, right? After he sold PayPal, now when he started PayPal, his mission was to reform banking. He kind of did that with PayPal. I can tell you, when I became an entrepreneur, PayPal helped me start. But after selling PayPal, he told me that he decided that if humanity is confined to one planet, an asteroid strike could wipe us out. We need to be an interplanetary species. And he felt NASA wasn't doing the job, so he decided he was going to do it. He didn't know how to, but that's what led to SpaceX. It's what led to Tesla. It's what led to his company, SolarCity, which he's the chairman of, which has become the #1 solar installer in America. He wants to help preserve the world, make it more green and safe for the next generation, while populating Mars, so we have a second world as well, so that, God forbid, if we get hit by an asteroid, humanity lives on. Does he know how he's going to get there? I don't know. It's a massive vision, but that's what drives him. And that's why he is one of the world's most respected entrepreneurs and has been rewarded by billions of dollars. But let's talk about someone else. I met this lady, Kalyani Kona, a few weeks ago. Actually, a week ago. I was speaking in New Delhi, and Kalyani was the person who had to help me get my mic ready and was helping me make sure my slides were ready for the stage. I just happened to ask Kalyani, so what do you do? Is this your full-time job? She goes, no, actually, I'm working on an app. And I said, what type of app is it? And Kalyani explained to me that in India, there are 80 million disabled people who cannot see or cannot walk or cannot hear. And only 5% of them will ever find love. Only 5% of these 80 million people will ever get married. And that's sad, and it made Kalyani sad. So Kalyani decided to launch a company. She called it Lovability. She put it on India's version of Kickstarter, which is called Wishberry. And she managed to raise money from 143 backers. She then presented that to the Indian government, got further backing, and she's now launching her app. I recorded this video on my iPhone of Kalyani explaining why she did it. Isn't it scary?
It's very, very scary, but okay, no, I'm not going to say it again.
Come on, you can say it again.
It's super scary, but if I have the opportunity to make a change and I'm a privileged one, I'd rather bring that change with the opportunities I've got rather than sitting in front of my laptop trying to, do something which has been allocated to me. I mean, I like finding solutions, and it's what makes me an icicle. So yeah, I'm just giving you impromptu questions, answers, but still.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is really, really amazing and cool.
Thank you
And I
so
think
much.
everyone in this auditorium here should give you a big round of applause.
Don't tell them I'm there, okay? I'm going to be behind the console though, because I'm managing the console tomorrow.
Gotcha. Now we know where you are. Console. I shared this video with the people who were watching me speak, and Kalyani got a rousing round of applause. She was just a person managing the console, but she was doing something with a greater mission. And you see, the problem with most people in the world today is that their problems aren't big enough. They're worried about that person they met who hasn't texted them back after that first date, or the little bit of fat that they're feeling around their thighs or their waist. They're worried about falling hair, or they're worried about, where are they going to take their family out next weekend for fun. Now, if you're the average human being who can afford a course like this, probably your basic needs are taken care of. What you need now are not those small problems, but big problems. The problem with most people is that their problems aren't big enough. We need a world where more people are worried about, helping blind folks live a normal life, or clean water, or better education for all, or more trees on the planet, or reducing air pollution. When you have a big problem, the little stuff that doesn't bug you as much. And life becomes so much more fulfilling. This is why you need to get a mission, not a career. Kalyani could have gotten a career with any major corporation in India. She's a smart kid, but instead she chose to use one of the modern tools available today, crowdsourcing, to achieve her mission. And the world needs more people like that. Now, this doesn't mean you might be successful immediately. Let me share with you some stats from my life post-graduation. So I graduated in '99. From 2000 to 2002, I tried to start a company. First job, I was fired from my first job. Launched a company, that failed. Started my own company, lost all my savings. Got a real job, was laid off in 4 months in the week after September 11. That was my record. So my score in the first 2 years post-graduation, twice fired, failed entrepreneur twice, and lost $30,000. I was $30,000 in debt. I borrowed that money, lost it all. So it was tough, and I'm not saying this comes easy, but I still persisted at the road less traveled. Let's look at what happened next. From 2002 to 2008, I got a dead-end job in San Francisco, quit later to start my own company. Mindvalley was formed, and for the first 5 years of Mindvalley, I pretty much earned a meager salary and was thousands in debt. But you know what? I didn't care, because I was, at that time, fulfilling my vision, spreading meditation to the masses. You know, that's the early days of Mindvalley. Look at me, I could barely afford pants. Well, that table, that chair, I salvaged it from the streets of New York. I walked out of my apartment on 47th Street. The neighbor had tossed it out. I picked it up. And that's what I was working on. But I loved every single day. It took me 5 years. It was December 2009 that I finally had become a millionaire. And you know, the year before that, like 4.5 years before that, I was still in debt. I still had debt to pay. I was poorer than I would have been if I hadn't started Mindvalley. So my first 5 years, Mindvalley basically just ate my finances. But I loved every single moment because I had a mission. August 2015, I get to speak to you about this and pretend it's all easy. But the fact is, it isn't. It took me 8 years. And when you choose to take this path, you're going to face resistance from loved ones, from people who tell you that you're being selfish, from people who tell you that you're being impractical. And it may happen fast, it may happen slow. You have a better, if you're doing this now, you have better possibilities than me, because when I started, there was no LinkedIn, there was no Facebook. You now have that. You now have funds like 63 Moons in India, 500 startups in Asia and Silicon Valley, Y Combinator in the Bay Area to fund simple ideas. You have easy access to capital through Indiegogo and Kickstarter. And there's new technology that creates new opportunities. Mobile apps, 3D printing. I didn't have a lot of that. So it may take you less than 8 years, but it may still take you a while. I was reading an article recently on the average age of success among entrepreneurs, and there's this thing called the Mark Zuckerberg effect. We tend to think that entrepreneurs are successful in their early ages, 25 to 28. Bullshit. Turns out, according to this one VC who wrote the article, the average age of success is 38. Yes, younger companies by 20-year-olds get funded, but most of them fail. Dramatically, they fail. But you know what these guys do? They start a second company or a third company like me. And then when they're in their mid-30s, they start to see success. So if you're in your 30s or 40s, congratulations. You've probably failed or messed up enough that your odds of success are going to be way greater than a 20-year-old kid. But don't fall for the Mark Zuckerberg effect. If you're pushing 40, you're the perfect age to be starting a business. Now, one more thing though, being an entrepreneur is not a necessity. I don't want you to think that you need to quit your job and being an entrepreneur. You don't. You can find a mission and be happy and be fulfilled being in your job. But you must know this. You must be able to differentiate between companies which are humanity plus or humanity minus. Humanity plus or humanity minus. Sadly, many companies in the world today which are older than 10 to 20 years are humanity minus companies. They were started in a time when stock market profits was the most important thing. And are they really adding a net positive benefit to the world? I don't think so. If you're working for an oil company, that's humanity minus. If you're working for solar power, that's humanity plus. If you're working for a fast food company or Coke or Pepsi, I'm sorry, but that is humanity minus. You're taking high fructose corn syrup and making it cool. Where is that going to help the next generation? But if you're working for a company that's popularizing fresh, healthy eating, Great, that's Humanity Plus. Every one of us is in a Humanity Minus or a Humanity Plus company. If you're in a Humanity Minus company, do not make the mistake of falling for cognitive dissonance. Here's what cognitive dissonance is. One of my close friends is one of the smartest men in Silicon Valley, and he runs an innovation center where large companies come to him and pay him $250,000 to $500,000 to run a weekend brainstorm with their key managers to innovate in some area of the company. Recently, a soft drink manufacturer came to him and he said, well, what would you like to brainstorm? What would this be around? And they said, well, we're finding that teenagers are drinking less and less and less of our cola. So could you help us make this popular among teens and high schoolers? And my friend was shocked. And he said, you do realize that your cola is nothing more than high fructose corn syrup filled with sugar, and it is horribly unhealthy. And they said, well, no, actually it's not. Actually, it makes people happy. And he says, no, the research shows that it's horribly unhealthy. And they go, well, no, we have other research that shows that there is no correlation between people drinking our cola and, say, diabetes. And so my friend pulled up evidence showing that their cola caused diabetes. They pulled up evidence showing that a study shows that their cola does not cause diabetes. Of course, they had funded that study. And my friend I asked my friend, you turned it down? And he goes, yeah, I turned down $250,000 to $500,000 in a potential deal. And my friend then told me this. He said, what surprised me most was that the employees of this company, whom I met with, refused to accept that what they were selling and peddling led to diabetes. They insisted it didn't exist. That is cognitive dissonance. Because they have made a decision to join the company, because this becomes their work, because they are inundated with advertising for the company, they cannot accept the truth that what they are peddling is basically crap. And let me ask you a difficult question. Are you working for a Humanity Minus company and you're choosing to see it as a product that actually helps humanity? Maybe. Now, if you are, you only have two options. Number one, quit. Quit and join a company that's actually providing a benefit to the world. Or number two, figure out a way to change the company internally. I know people at Coke, for example, who are helping change Coke by distributing machines invented by the inventor Dean Kamen, to extract water from the atmosphere so that even in villages all around the world, people can have clean water. Great. If Coke can pivot to that, extracting water from the atmosphere so people have clean water, and see less and less of their money come from cola or bottled water, which is is a major pollutant for the world's oceans because of the plastic it comes in, that's great. But you got to shift your company from within or get another job. I'm not asking you to save the world. You have salaries to worry about. You have your kids whose college funds you have to pay. All I'm saying is, let's not make it a worse place for the next generation. When people are looking for a career, first, rather than a mission, these companies, McDonald's, Coke, and others of their kind, end up getting people to join them for a career, but that means nothing in the grand scheme of things. Have a mission. If you have a mission, you will not be seduced to fall for the dark side, to peddle goods and products and services that aren't benefiting our planet. Your mission must be something that helps us leave a planet that is better for our children. And you know what? When you have that mission, so many other things happen to you. It's not just that you become wealthy. It's not just that you're making a change. It's not just that you can sleep better at night. But you want to know something? You become way more charismatic. People who have a mission attract other people to them. They attract followers. They attract people who want to rally around them for that mission. On my second trip to Necker Island, I happened to be sitting with Branson. It was a beach party. Everyone had left, and we were just having a glass of water. Branson doesn't drink, and I asked him if you could break it down to just one thing. You know, Branson, you started 8 companies in 8 different industries and took all 8 of them to $1 billion. If you could break it down to one thing, what would it be? And this is what he said. He said, it's all about finding and hiring people smarter than you, getting them to join your business, and giving them good work. Then getting out of the way and trusting them. You have to get out of the way so you can focus on the bigger vision. That's important. But here's the main thing. You must make them see their work as a mission. Virgin does an amazing job. Even when Virgin launched its airline, right? Branson knew that, yep, it's great, you need an airline to travel, but it's still a major pollutant. He decided to donate a large chunk of profits from that airline business to help fund clean air initiatives. He became a major backer of environmental groups. And in many others of Branson's companies, it's about creating workplaces which are fun, creating workplaces where you care about the customer. So if you've flown Virgin Atlantic or Virgin America versus any other airline, you know what I'm talking about. If you tried Virgin Mobile versus any other American mobile provider, you know what I'm talking about. He's creating a better world, and that's why he is such a damn popular man. When you pick a mission, you gain this charisma to get people to follow you, to help you rally people around you. And it makes life so much more fun, and it makes it easier for you to attain your mission. So let's look at where we are right now, okay? We've talked about not getting stuck in society's rules and choosing mission over career. We still have 3 more. Create a balanced, extraordinary life, learn to reframe failure, and why you should be unrealistic in your goals. So let's get moving. Now, this third point is to get balanced. Thus far, in talking about our vision for the future, we have spoken about career, but we also need to think about those other aspects of our lives which are truly important. Now, what truly matters in the end? It's important for you to understand the difference between a means goal and an end goal. All that stuff about, 9 to 5 and saving up for retirement and getting a college degree are means goals. Ultimately, what we really want in life are end goals. Let me share with you a story that will help you understand this. So, at one point, I was teaching a class on personal growth in New York, and a lady came up to me and said, hey, these techniques you're teaching us for visualization, can they be applied to make me a faster typist? So I asked her, why do you want to be a faster typist? And she said, well, because if I can type faster, I'm a data processor, I can, and if I type faster, I can process more of these cards, and I can earn a higher salary. And I said, okay, so you want to type faster so you can process more cards, so you can earn a higher salary. Why do you want to earn a higher salary? She goes, well, I want to earn a higher salary because I want to save up. And I said, why do you want to save up? She goes, I want to save up because I want to buy a house. I asked her, why do you want to buy a house? She says, I want to buy a house because my mom lives in Detroit and I want to have her move to New York and come and live with me. I said, why do you want your mom living with you? She goes, well, because Detroit is such an unsafe city and my mom lives in a home there that's filled with so many beautiful heirlooms that go all the way back to the Civil War era. And I want to be able to bring her and our family history to New York so that we can live together in a home. I can someday find a man, have kids, and when my kids grow up, they're growing in a home with all of these gorgeous heirlooms, and they will never forget their heritage. And I go, that's it. That's what you want. Why on earth would you waste all your time visualizing how to be a faster typist when you could be visualizing that home with your mom next to you, with your family heirlooms, with your kids? So you see, so many of us get trapped in that. We focus on means goals rather than end goals. End goals tend to be about feelings. They are things that bring us joy, bring us happiness. They are things that, in an end to itself, give us beautiful, gorgeous feelings that remind us of how wonderful humanity can be. Getting a certificate to say that you completed a graduation might induce some feelings, but it's nothing like the feeling of having freedom, the feeling of being with the woman you love, the feeling of being able to travel around the world. Now, if you've seen my video on the 3 most important questions, you will know that end goals fall into 3 different buckets. So there's experiences, travel, love, being in a healthy relationship, raising kids, growth, which is all about who you want to be. And all connect to the other. So if you've done the exercise, you've first made a list of all your end goals and experiences. Now you ask yourself, to have these experiences, how do I have to grow? What languages do I need to speak? What skills do I need to pick up? What books do I need to read? That's growth. And the third one is contribution. You then ask yourself, if I have all these experiences and I've grown into that man or woman that I've always dreamed of being, how can I now give back to the world? All 3 are very important. You got to make sure that you do this exercise because you cannot be a one-dimensional being. You can have a good career, yes, but you must also be in great health. You must be able to have a healthy family life, have friends, be able to have time for relaxation, for creativity. This exercise is supremely powerful. I believe that all our brains are incredible machines. And whether you believe in the law of attraction or you believe in simply the brain's reticular activating system, where when you set a goal, your brain starts helping you get there faster, the fact is goals help us create a new reality. And that's why these goals are so important. You cannot stop with just career goals. Here's a story I want to share. In 2008, you'll notice the date on that email, March 23, 2008, Kylie Ng, who was an employee who worked for me, wrote me this email. Hey guys, check this out. It was a link to an article in the New York Times about how Richard Branson had invited Tony Blair, the ex-co-founder of PayPal, etc., on Branson's Island to plan how to save the world, as well as party with bikini-clad women. And Kylie said, do you guys aim that big? Apart from picturing the perfect day, sometimes I think about intense experiences as in one-off events which will leave an enduring mark on my memory of life. And I want to get to a point where I can be on that island with Branson someday. Perhaps I can meet you guys there too. So that was a beautiful goal. And I remember me, Kylie, Mike, we all remembered this. We made it our goal. If you were to look at my vision board, there's a picture of Branson on that. Well, in just a short amount of time, this was March 2008, we happened to attain that goal. That's me and Kylie in a boat with Branson. That's us sitting with him around a deck chair on his island, just listening to his sagely advice. It happened, and it happened in the most bizarre way. We thought we had to be billionaires to get there. Turned out that wasn't even necessary. I ended up meeting a guy who was Branson's #1 fundraiser at a networking event. He told me about a mastermind he was organizing on the island and allowed me to get in at a reduced rate, which me and Kylie could afford. It was incredible. The thing is, sometimes when you set these big goals, how you think you need to get there may not happen. The universe finds shortcuts. And that's why this exercise is so important. Mediocre people plan their lives by simply doing. But extraordinary people, they create goals and they know that there is that inner ability, whether it's thoughts creating reality or the brain's reticular activating system, that optimizes their path to the goal. We'll be talking more about that in a little bit. Now, this exercise is so important. I do it with all my employees. That's us in the Hall of Awesomeness in Mindvalley. People gather here and do this exercise. This is the results from some of our employees. So this woman from Ukraine, Luba, who works for us, did the 3 most important questions. You can see the 3 columns: experiences, growth, contribution. And one of the things Luba wanted to do was write a book, and write a book for children and parents. Took her around 4 years, but she did it. She's from Ukraine. That is her book. This guy, Ronan from Brazil, was really passionate about exercise and health. You can see I've circled the elements in his 3 most important questions that matter. You can see he ended up being incredibly fit. There was recently a competition here in our city called the Viper Challenge. 20,000 people took part. Ronan was #1. This person, Jason Campbell from Canada, dreamed of being an entrepreneur, a teacher, a better manager and delegator. Jason ended up getting a chance to speak at Awesomeness Fest by pure fluke. He wasn't qualified to be a speaker, but we had a particular event where a speaker got seriously ill and couldn't make it. I put Jason on stage. Jason won Best Speaker. And today, he's opened up so many opportunities for himself. This person, some of you might know, Luminita Sobiak, who used to work for Mindvalley, wanted to be a blogger and a writer. She ended up writing a blog post that went on to become the single most viral blog post in the history of the internet for personal growth. 1.2 million people shared this on their Facebook timeline. 15 things you should give up to be happy. It led to a book deal by a major publisher, and a book is coming out next year. Amir Ahmad joined us from Sudan. He did this exercise when he was 22 years old. He put down some pretty incredible things that most kids from Sudan wouldn't really believe they could do. He wanted to speak at Ivy League universities. He wanted to be a best-selling author. Well, Amir's book, My Islam, which is on how the internet is bringing democracy to the Middle East and opening up minds, made it to Foreign Policy magazine top 25 must-read books of 2013. He's been invited to speak at many top-tier universities. And so at Mindvalley, we produce many famous employees who end up, advising at university programs, being in the covers of magazines, even gracing the front page of magazines, winning awards, speaking on stage, starting businesses. It's because they do this question, which internally we call the blueprint for the soul. And we take the results of this question and we stick it on a massive whiteboard, corkboard, where everyone can come and glance at each other's blueprint so that we can help each other grow. There is no monopoly on dreams, and sometimes you will see something on someone's blueprint that you can go, aha, I like that, and apply it to your own. It's a beautiful exercise, and I highly recommend it. So, we've spoken about career, right? We got to make sure that you also do this with your personal life. So if you were to begin this exercise, we won't do it now, but I'm going to quickly show you the procedure. You start by setting a timer, maybe 3 minutes, and listing experiences. Now, there are 4 types of experiences you want to list. You could further subcategorize them into love relationships, friendships, adventures such as travel, or your environment. A lot of people forget to put this down, but you want to put down the home you want to live in, the bed you want to have, the car you want to drive. These are objects, but think about what feeling do you get from these objects. Don't put down, I want a beautiful $100,000 house. You may want to put down, I want a house where I am so happy waking up every morning that I'm perpetually in a state of bliss. Now, the second thing is growth. Here you want to make goals for health and fitness, your intellectual life, your spiritual life, and your skills. What skills do you need to learn next? Then there's contribution. Here you want to make goals for your career. How are you going to contribute to your career? And remember, when I say career here, you could be working for a company that's Humanity Plus. You could be working for a company that's Humanity Minus and helping it shift to Humanity Plus. Or you could be starting your own company with a serious mission to benefit the planet. Then there's your creative life. What do you do for fun? I love photography. My wife loves art. What is that creative pursuit you want to have? Your family life. I have so many goals for what I want to do with my kids. I love them. Family life is really important. And then your community. What do you do for your community? I love providing opportunities for education for refugees. What do you love doing about your community? The Dalai Lama said that one of the best ways to happiness is to make others happy. And so this is why this exercise is so important. When you do this, you start going on a path that lets you be extraordinary. And the thing is, not extraordinary in one way, but extraordinary in the multi-dimensions of being human. And now we go on to part 4, reframing failure. Know that as you begin on this path, it won't be easy, and you might fail. Shit happens. Here's what to do about it. So when shit happens, when a business you start collapses, and remember, it's happened to me twice. When you get fired, it's happened to me twice. When you get seriously ill or have a loved one ill, it's happened to me as well. You have 3 options. You can get frustrated, you can find things to fix, or you can create a vision that makes the old problem obsolete. 3 options. Frustration, not good. It breaks flow because as soon as you get frustrated, happiness in the now disappears. And so your ability to be in flow, to help create beautiful futures, to help get the universe on your side, breaks. Do not get frustrated. Second thing is you find things to fix. Now the problem with finding things to fix is what you focus on expands. If you start focused on broken things, you expand brokenness. So instead, you want to look for visions that make the old problem obsolete. Here's how that idea saved me. In 2003, when I started Mindvalley in New York City, everything was going well. I was making some decent money. But what happened was that I lost my US visa. I went through a horrible situation where it was 2 years after September 11, and immigration rules got really tightened up. I was a Malaysian, my wife was European, but I happened to have a passport from Malaysia. And Malaysia was a country that has a large Muslim population. And I guess someone in the State Department was observing my travel patterns, and it triggered some computer alert. And so I got put on a watch list. This meant that living in America became essentially like living on parole. Every 30 days I had to report to the government to get fingerprinted, to get photographed. They would swipe my credit cards to see, if I was buying fertilizer or something. And it made life very hard. And so I loved America. I wanted my kids born there. And I'd had an American education. I'd lived there for 10 years. I'd started Mindvalley in America. But I couldn't live in that country because it was like living on parole. So I had to move back to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and take Mindvalley with me. Problem was, in Malaysia, there was massive brain drain. Malaysia was a developing country, and developing countries have their problems. In Malaysia, 1% of the population was leaving for other countries every year. And this was some of our brightest people. They were leaving for Canada or the US or Hong Kong or Singapore. And so my friends told me, you can't be here. There's no way you're going to be able to build a company. There's no talent here. And it got lonely. This is the first About Us section on the Mindvalley website. It's me and Aussie Labradoodle. I actually bought a dog from Australia. And That was my companion. All my friends were were in the US. I was back home after 10 years and couldn't find the right talent to work with me, had to get a dog for company, and it was a miserable time. I felt really down, really sad. My dreams seemed absolutely crushed. But this is what pushed me. I'm a big fan of Buckminster Fuller, the famous thinker and philosopher, and Buckminster said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." So I thought about this. Now, my problem was brain drain, was loneliness. Well, what if I could create a new model that eradicated brain drain? And I wanted to give myself a massive mission. And that mission was, I decided I was going to build the world's greatest workplace in Kuala Lumpur. Forget Silicon Valley or London or New York. I'm going to build it in Kuala Lumpur despite the brain drain. And that mission possessed me. It was hard. It was challenging. It took me years, about 5 years, but we did it. Today, if you were to walk into Mind Valley, it is mind-blowing. People call it one of the happiest places they've ever been to. We attract incredible staff. Our office has won Inc. magazine top 10 coolest offices in the planet for 2012. We win designer awards. We get incredible people who travel all around the world to join us. That is just a screenshot of our weekly company meeting in what we call the Hall of Awesomeness. And these are shots of what our office looked like and our team. That loneliness disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by being able to have the same level of diversity and friendship and fun that I had with the company I worked for in New York. I couldn't stay in New York, so I brought New York back to Malaysia with me by creating a vision. Today we have 150 people, 40 plus countries in Kuala Lumpur, and people travel all around the world to come to Mind Valley. On that thing about brain drain, not an issue. We get talent right now from so many other countries that we are draining other countries and bringing people to Malaysia. To get into Mind Valley, people put up video cover letters. And we now, it's insane, but we have a team that holds passports from 40 different nations. All because I chose to not focus on what was broken, but to create a vision to render that obsolete. We call this energy redirection. When shit happens, you redirect energy elsewhere. So the 4-step solution is this. You turn your problem into a project. It's no longer a problem, it's a project. Let's say, I'll give you a smaller example. You just had your heart broken. Make it a project. We all get dumped, it happens. You're gonna try to understand what is it that you could have done differently or changed or evolved into. Who is that man or woman you could be that would put you at the next level? So you make that the project. It could be going out there, getting a new wardrobe, maybe taking classes in public speaking, maybe pursuing a mission, because when you do that, you gain charisma. Number 2, you now create a vision that makes the problem obsolete, and you listen for inspired solutions. So your vision could be, okay, I'm going to be so incredible as a woman or a man that I will attract someone even better than that last person who broke my heart. That becomes your new vision. 4, you pursue that vision aggressively and joyfully. This is what puts you in flow. You take little steps towards that vision. Joyfully is there for a reason. You cannot tell yourself, I'll only feel better when I am that man or woman. You got to start being joyful now. Remember, our previous module was on Blisscipline. Start using some of that. And when you do this, you're pursuing the vision, but you're joyful now. Your happiness is not tied to the creating that vision. Your happiness is in the present. And number 4, you monitor your state of flow. Always monitor your state of flow. Make sure that you're in that state by remembering the previous lesson on Blisscipline and making sure that you have beautiful visions pulling you forward. That's it. Any problem you have in life, failed business, set a vision to create a new business that's even better with what you've learned. Dumped, create a vision to become an even better man or woman. Ill, create a vision to develop and take care of your body in new ways so that you have more energy in the future. It's a powerful process, this energy redirection work. So again, let's recap. Don't get stuck in society's rules. Choose mission over career. Create balance. Learn to reframe failure. And now we come to the final one. Why you should be unrealistic in your goals. Part 5. Be unrealistic. I came across this in the blog recently. Realism is nothing more than a socially acceptable form of pessimism. The people with the most consistent track records of success don't think in terms of what is, they think in terms of what could be. I love that line. realism is nothing more than a socially acceptable form of pessimism. You've learned about reframing failure, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to introduce you to a new concept called moonshots. So moonshots was coined by Larry Page. Larry Page, of course, is the founder of Google. And Larry Page says that when you're starting a business, you want to sometimes be utterly unrealistic. You want to take a moonshot. So when Larry Page made his money at Google, his moonshot was he wanted to provide free internet access to all the people of the world, create self-driving cars, create Google Glass. Now, a lot of people say that moonshots are bound for failure. Elon Musk's moonshot is to colonize Mars. But Larry says that, in reality, when you have these crazy big dreams, failure isn't as expected as you may seem. Even though you don't know how to get there, what happens is in our pursuit of moonshots, we learn so much. Elon Musk, for example, while trying to figure out how to make man an interplanetary species, invented a new type of rocket that has replaced the space shuttle that you're seeing in that picture. And he's earned billions from it. Has he hit his goal of putting man on Mars? No. Is he a failure? On that goal, maybe he hasn't hit it yet. But the moonshot led to incredible innovations. My moonshot is to create an online university and school that can teach 100 million people new curriculums that teach them how to use their consciousness and how to bring in personal growth into all aspects of their lives. My moonshot is to change the global human education curriculum. Could I fail doing it? Quite possibly. It's a ridiculously big goal. But as I'm getting there, I'm launching so many apps and companies and businesses like Mindvalley Academy that are helping me get there, and they're also profitable. But I never lose sight of that moonshot. So there's a power here in being unrealistic. You can be unrealistic, but as soon as you're pursuing it joyfully and stay in flow, you start stumbling upon little ideas that emerge from that unrealistic goal. So the people who say don't be unrealistic or be realistic, it's a simplistic way of goal setting. They've forgotten the fact that the only reason you don't want to be unrealistic is because sometimes it creates anxiety. But if you practice Blisscipline, you can have both. You can have unrealistic goals pulling you forward, but you can be happy in now. So as you want to set big goals, but you want to be patient. Remember the moonshot effect. Know that if you set a big goal, little things, as you pursue it, little things will happen to help you get there, but be patient. This is one of our team photos today of many of the main faces on Mindvalley. But this is our team photo 8 years ago. This is a Christmas card from our last Christmas that we sent to our partners. But this is our Christmas card from 8 years ago. I was lonely. I basically had to abuse my cat and my dog. My cat still hasn't forgiven me for that. This is a meeting room in our Mindvalley office. It was a vision at one point. This is our meeting room 8 years ago. This is a diner where people come and make lunch and eat. That table at the back with the cheap crackers and coffee is where our people ate 7 years ago. This is our team now. That's our team just 7 years ago. It doesn't happen fast. It may not, honestly. But it doesn't mean you stop being unrealistic. So how do you know when you can take that risk to be unrealistic? When I was working my day job and I wanted to start Mindvalley and get meditation out to millions, that was maybe kind of unrealistic. How did I be able to take that jump? Well, you got to know this one variable. It's called your minimum livable income. So let me tell you a story about Elon Musk, that man we got introduced to earlier, the world's greatest entrepreneur. In an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, Elon Musk said that when he was young, meaning college kid, he tried an experiment. He tried to see if he could survive on $30 a month. So he knew that in America, you could go to a place such as Walmart and buy in bulk food. So he went and he bought in bulk pasta and ramen noodles and food. And he was able to buy enough food where he could survive for $30 a month. That's $1 a day. He said once he established this, he had no fear because he knew no matter what, he was going to survive. Now, if you are older and you have a family, it may not be $1 a day. When my wife and I were starting out in New York, we also figured out our MLI, a minimum livable income. For us, it was $4,000 a month. That was what we needed to pay rent in New York. And for two of us to survive, that was 2003. And so when we started Mindvalley, our first month we lost $300. The second month, $800. Our third month we made some money, but it took a while. Now, in our 12th month, I forget the exact month, but somewhere around our 12th month, we hit 4,000. And that's when I knew I could quit my job and I'd be okay. So I quit a job that was paying me $7,500 to depress my income and live on 4,000. But that minimum livable income is what gave me the courage to strike out on my own, be unrealistic, and move towards Mindvalley. So you don't have to do this in a way that jeopardizes your family or puts you in an unsafe footing. You must know your minimum livable income. And if you have debts, that's going to add to your minimum livable income as well, because you want to be paying off your debts. So get unreal. And another thing you need to know about getting unreal is that many people make the mistake in terms of setting goals, right? They look at where they are now and then they look at where they can be logically, and that becomes their goal. Do not do this. In the hit book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, the author, talks about a quality of the human mind he refers to as vibes, but we now would call it intuition. And it's the fact that when you have something pulling you forward, when you've given your brain some direction, you may not see the path, but your intuition does. And so Napoleon Hill says, take a baby step. Your baby step shows that you have intention. It rallies the universe to support you. It activates your intuition because we know you're serious about this. And your baby steps don't have to be in the right direction. Many people think that from their beginning, to get to their unrealistic goal, they need to move in a straight line. That's not true. Napoleon Hill says, take a baby step. Maybe it's in the wrong direction. That's fine. You'll eventually know that you can autocorrect, and you will correct. And again, you may not be making the optimal path, but again, you'll autocorrect, and eventually you hit your goal. If you're trying to start a company and you don't know where to begin and you don't have an idea, take a baby step. Get out there and register a company name. That's what I did. I just registered a company name, so I had a piece of paper saying I own a particular LLC. That was my baby step. But baby steps establish intention. Hill says, a genius is a man who has discovered how to increase the intensity of his thought to a point where he can freely communicate with sources of knowledge not available through ordinary rate of thought. When you find a mission that's pulling you forward, when you have these goals, you activate your intuition, and your intuition will guide you. And this is why unrealistic goals are only labeled unrealistic from logical minds who are unaware of the brain's supreme power for intuition. Now, as we move forward, I'm going to teach you about intuition. So that's going to be in another module. Now let's talk about those of you who might not be an entrepreneur but might be working for a company. How do you explain unrealistic goals or quest to your coworkers, to your boss? You still want to do it, but how do you do it in a way that's acceptable to a regular business that might be more based on realism? So here's a technique from my friend Raymond Aaron, another incredible coach from Canada. It's called MTO. Now, MTO stands for Minimum Target Outrageous, and this is a goal setting practice we use at Mindvalley. Let's say you own a company or you work for a company, and you're their sales director, and the goal is to hit 600K in sales. Okay, so MTO works like this. You set 3 different numbers. Let's say the goal is 800K. You're going to set 3 different numbers. Now, minimum is 500K. That is what you know you can hit with ease. As long as you hit minimum, but not your goal, as long as you hit minimum, you do not allow yourself to get all worked up or worried about it, right? Now, your actual target, the target that you're putting down in your business plan or sharing with your boss is 800K. That's the realistic one. They'll always ask you to be realistic. So, fine. But in your mind, you can set an outrageous target for 1 million. So you see there are 3 different levels. So when we set a monthly revenue goal, our outrageous may be X, our target may be a little bit less, and a minimum is what we know we can hit with ease if everyone in the company got stricken with flu and couldn't work for half the month. Okay, so this way, 3 things happen. Number 1, you remove stress and anxiety. Because as long as you're hitting minimum, no one's allowed to feel sad. Now, we've had times when we did not even hit minimum. Let's say our minimum was 500K, we hit 498. Well, are we allowed to feel bad? Yes. But I set a timer and everyone is allowed to bitch and moan for 1 minute only at our weekly meeting. Now, our target revenue is what we share with our investors. It's what we share with our accounting department. We need to know a target revenue because it helps with cash flow. But in our minds, we're aiming for outrageous. So MTO is an incredible thing because those of you who are inspired by outrageous, who want unrealistic, who know that you can set an outrageous goal because intuition is going to kick in. You have the universe on your back. You can get there. You can get there. But with MTO, everyone is happy. The realistic people, the accountants, the investors, and the outrageous thinkers like yourself. So let's recap. Don't get stuck in society's rules. Choose mission over career. Create a balanced, extraordinary life. Learn to reframe failure. And be unrealistic in your goals. Ultimately, when you live life like this, when you choose mission, when you choose things that might be beyond the realm of possibility, if more people live like this, we help create a better world for the generation that is to follow. Not only does your life become a life filled with meaning and passion and motivation, but you're doing so much good for the world, and the world needs more people like you. Thank you.